Okay, so here we have a more sophisticated way of populating an array, and that is to use a user-driven loop to allow the user to enter items that will be put into the array, and then the user decides when enough is enough. So in this example, we're going to ask the user to enter shopping list items, and we'll store those items in an array and then print them out for the user at the end as a shopping list. So what I've done here is I've created a const variable called max items, and I figure, this is an arbitrary number, but I set it to 100, thinking that's the most I would ever want to buy. Anything else would be too expensive or really hard to carry everything. So I'm capping myself off at 100 items to buy at the store. And now I'm creating an array called items, and I've initialized it to the size of max items, meaning 100 items in memory. So at the moment the array is empty though. Okay, the user, when I run the program, am going to populate the array with my shopping list items at runtime. Now here's the thing, this is what we call user-controlled repetition as opposed to counter-controlled repetition, which is what we usually do in this class. So I don't have a loop counter per se. The user is controlling the loop, but I still need to keep track of where I am in the array, what index I'm at or what subscript I'm at, how many items are in the array. So I have created a separate integer called item count to keep track of the number of items in the array and our current index in the array as we're moving through the array and the user is populating the items. So now I have the user-driven loop, which I used a do-while loop. And let's look at the bottom of this loop. I'm telling the user to enter an item, a shopping list item, or queue to quit. That queue is what we would call a sentinel value. Okay, that's like a value when you're sentinel. That's a value like when you're looping, it's kind of like the end value. So you're waiting for that sentinel value. And in this case, I've chosen queue because it's intuitive for quit. But that's like the loop is going to keep running until it comes across this value. And we have to let the user know that that's the value that's going to end the loop. So we're going to keep going. And in the cin, I'm using cin here to absorb the user's input, whether that be a shopping list item like coffee or tea or something, or queue to quit. Whatever they type is going into the array at the item count location. Now item count is going to have to change as we're going through this, but we'll look at that in a moment. One thing I want to add here is remember that cin does not like spaces. So if I have a shopping list item like ice cream, which is ice space cream, that's not going to work here. So I think I will replace this with getLine instead. That would be a better option for this program. Okay, so in any case, the user's input is going into the array at the current location, whatever that may be. All right. And so looking at the bottom of the loop here, we're going to keep going while whatever the user has entered is not equal to queue, meaning they don't want to quit, they want to keep going, and we're still below the max items. Okay, so as long as those things are both true, we're going to keep looping and keep asking. All right, but if I've reached the max items, I'm up to 101 items, forget it, it's over. Or the user says queue, forget it, it's over. Now this item count variable, which is kind of keeping track of where we are behind the scenes, that has got to be incremented as we go. Okay, so we know how many items are in the array and also know what current index we're looking at in the array. And so I've added the increment here. This is the very if you think about the loop here, this whole thing, this here is the very last occurrence of item count. And so I really, that is why I need to put the increment here, because if I increment it anywhere before that, it's too early and it's going to mess up my loop. It's going to really mess things up. So I only want to increment item count when I'm absolutely done with it, absolutely done accessing that value, and I know I'm done here because this is the last most time we see him in appearing in the loop. Okay, so at that point, the array is populated, and now we're home free. What I've done here is I've told the user the shopping list is complete, press any key to view it. And what I did do is, because as the user is entering the shopping list items or the queue, they're hitting the enter key every time. And so I don't want that enter key to linger in the input stream. So I did a cin ignore to flush the input stream. And then the cin.get, we don't use that a lot in this class. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it in a video, but that'll just absorb one key from the keyboard. So that's nice if you want to do like a press any key to view, or, you know, pause the screen for a moment and have the user press any key. That's a nice touch. Okay, and then now we're truly home free. The array is populated. I'm just going to do a quick little for loop to zip through that array and print the shopping list items. I'm using Z as my loop counter. Again, start counting at 0 because the array starts counting at 0. I'm going to keep going while Z is less than item count. This is key here. A lot of students would do this. A lot of beginners would do this. They're going to keep going while Z is less than max items. Well, chances are the user did not enter 100 items. The user did, however, whatever it may be, enter item count number of items. So if I only entered 5 items for my shopping list, I don't want this loop to go 100 times. I want it to go 5 times. And item count is going to have a value of 5 at that point. Okay, so yeah, there you have it. I'll go ahead and run this and demo it. Okay, so I'll just enter a few items here. Make sure I get one with a space, like ice cream. And we have bread, and then maybe now I'll do a queue to quit. That's a sentinel value. Okay, the array is apparently populated with those 3 items. I'm going to press any key to continue here. Oops. And there they are.